Alright, episode 7, the penultimate episode of Peacemaker Season 2 has dropped on HBO Max, and I'm sad. Let's talk about this episode with all the spoilers. That is, of course, your spoiler warning. If you've not yet watched this episode and you're planning on it, best not to watch this video, because I will be talking about what happens in this episode in detail. If you have watched it or you don't care, then you're good to stick around. Alright, let's get started. So, last we left off, yes, we are in trouble. In this dimension, the Nazis won World War II, and Chris and our Amelia Harcourt were discovered by this dimension's Amelia Harcourt. And so Chris is basically like, hey, this dimension's Amelia Harcourt, I'm breaking up with you. Sucks to suck. And so they split. Meanwhile, Adebayo was being chased by an angry mob. And I do like the fact that, yes, Judo Master did come around. Remember, he followed the crew into the dimension a couple episodes ago. He rescues Adebayo by electrocuting the chasers in the pool. That was badass. And I gotta be honest, I was never a huge fan of this character, but he earned a lot of points from me in this episode. Because he actually does have a heart. And what can I say? I like that. And I like the scene where he and Adebayo are just chilling in the house. And Ads brings up a pretty good point. She's like, yeah, this world and our own are not really so different. This world is just more open about its ways than our own. I was like, yeah, I mean, she's not wrong. Big props to that. Meanwhile, back at this dimension's Smith residence, Augie and Keith learn that, yeah, the Chris that's been hanging around here is not our own. He killed our own, so we gotta go after him. We see that Chris and Amelia are escaping. I actually really like this part, because it does show that, yes, Amelia is in fact warming up to Chris. Finally, right? After all this time. And then they're confronted by the Blue Dragon and Captain Triumph. Still both pretty lame-ass names. Meanwhile, back in what I'm gonna call the home dimension, we get another Easter egg with Rick Flag Sr. and his hunt, because Lex Luthor has led him to Sidney Happerson, who it took me a second to recognize. Oh yeah, he is from Superman. He was in that movie. He was one of Lex Luthor's goons. And not only this, but we're also back in the Hub, that building with all the monitors that was part of the Luthor Corp building in Metropolis. Now it's here, I guess, in some warehouse or another. And they're gonna successfully track down Peacemaker's portal, finally. So that story arc will be touched on, I'm sure, in next week's finale. That'll be the thing. So we'll come back to that. But for now, we gotta deal with the other dimension and shit. Cause what happens here, oh my god. Yeah, just like last week, this was pretty crazy. Cause the whole crew is there now in the Smith residence, and they finally have the big talk with Augie Smith and Keith. And we learned that Blue Dragon here is actually pretty cool. He's not the douchebag that he was in the other dimension back in season 1. No, this guy's actually a pretty nice guy, all things considered. Keith, not so much. I'll get to him in a minute. But Augie's like, yeah, I'm not a Nazi. I don't agree with this world's ways. I try to fight all the injustice I can. And I was like, holy shit, this guy's actually great. And then the rug is just pulled out from underneath us all, because the vigilantes just crashed through the window and just straight up shivved the guy in the neck. He's fucking dead now. I was like, oh no! Broke my heart, dude. Come on, Gunn, really? Why you gotta do that to me, man? I was really starting to warm up to the guy. Fuck you, vigilante, seriously. Now I hate you again. And then a firefight just breaks out in the rescue. But the interesting thing here, though, is that Keith was still pissed at this Chris for killing his Chris, if I'm going back to it for a second. And Augie was like, dude, it was an accident. He was ready to forgive. Keith wasn't. Again, another thing that had me like, holy shit, it's just nuts. So now that both Keith's brother and father are dead, yeah, he's not gonna handle that too well. But our crew does get the drop on him and nearly beat him to death. They stab him a couple of times, they get him in a headlock, and Chris is finally like, stop! And what happens next, I gotta be honest with you, this is hands down the best acting I've seen from John Cena ever. Cause he goes up to his brother who is an inch away from death, and he just breaks down. He's like, what is wrong with all of us? It's not these worlds that are wrong, it's me, cause I just bring death to everyone I love. His own brother, his father back in season 1, the other Chris. It just all comes crashing down in his head. I was like, oh my god, this is hitting me harder than it probably should. Harder than it has any right to. I don't know what to say, man. This scene just completely landed everything with me. 10 out of 10. I almost teared up myself. I seriously gotta give huge props to this scene. The writing and the acting, just top notch. I got no notes, no criticisms. And so the crew gets out of there, and Keith is eventually rescued by paramedics, which makes me think one thing. He'll be back. He almost wasn't. Amelia had a gun pointed at his head. She's like, sorry, I can't have you following us. But then she was interrupted and they had to get out of there. So Keith lives, and yeah, I'm sure he's filled with a burning vengeance. From his point of view, these imposters from another dimension just burst into his world and killed his family. Just out of the blue. So yeah, he has every right to be fucking pissed. And so I feel like he'll be back in season 3. Next week's finale is not gonna touch on him, because we're out of this world for now. I'm pretty sure. If I'm wrong and he does come back next week, well, that's cool too. But I feel like I know how this is gonna go. I've watched enough seasons of TV like this to get the formula. So Keith, it's been nice knowing ya, but we'll see you, I'm sure, in a couple of years. So our crew gets back and is immediately confronted by Argus, to which Chris is like, alright, well, just take me. You got me, I got nothing left up my sleeve, and these guys, they helped bring me back to you. A lie which even Rip Jagger, Judo Master, went with. Again, major points to him there. And so Chris is taken away, and that's that. Back with Rick Flag Sr. for another beatdown, I'm sure. So yeah, in the end, Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 7, this is pretty much the exact kind of emotional third act I was hoping for from this season. It's hitting me in my heart, and I'm just completely emotionally invested here. I'm gonna be sad to see it go, but next week's finale should be just the most epic thing ever. But until then, Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 7, like a Keith in the night. Have you watched it yet? What are your thoughts on it? And what are your theories and or predictions for next week's finale? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Peace!